Karen's key scraped against my lock like a claw on a chalkboard. By the time she realized whose door she'd picked, her smug grin was a ghost, replaced by the kind of panic you'd see on a cat trapped in a dog kennel. Karen, the HOA's self-appointed dictator, had been terrorizing our little cul-de-sac for years. At 300 pounds, with a perm that screamed 1985 and a voice that could curdle milk, she waddled through our neighborhood like she owned every blade of grass. Her favorite pastime: snooping, fining, and bullying anyone who dared park a car an inch over the line or plant a rosebush without her approval. She'd slap violation notices on your door for a crooked mailbox, but let her own lawn grow into a jungle of dandelions. Hypocrisy was her cardio. That evening, the air was thick with summer heat, the kind that makes your shirt cling like a bad decision. I'd just gotten home from a double shift at the diner, my feet screaming and my patience thinner than the grease on our grill. My apartment, a shoebox on the edge of the complex, was my sanctuary until Karen decided it wasn't. I'd heard rumors she'd been inspecting units, claiming her HOA role gave her the right to check for violations. Nobody bought it, but nobody stopped her either. She had a knack for making you feel small, like a kid caught stealing cookies. I was halfway through a cold beer when I heard the scratching at my door. At first, I thought it was the neighbor's cat, but the metallic clink that followed made my stomach twist. I crept to the peephole, expecting a burglar, but there was Karen, her face a sweaty mask of determination, fumbling with a janky-looking key. She muttered to herself, something about teaching tenants a lesson. My blood boiled. This wasn't her first stunt once fine Mrs. Lopez for excessive curtain movement, but breaking into my place. That was a new low. I wasn't alone that night. My cousin, Marcus, was crashing on my couch. Marcus wasn't just family. He was the newly appointed police chief, in town for a conference and staying over to catch up. 6'4", built like a linebacker, with a stare that could make a pit bull rethink its choices. Marcus was not the guy you wanted to cross. He was sprawled on my couch, scrolling through his phone, when the lock started rattling. "Who's that?" he asked, voice low, already shifting into cop mode. "Karen," I whispered, my jaw tight. "HOA Karen. She's trying to get in." Marcus raised an eyebrow, setting his phone down. "With a key? On your door?" "Not my key," I said, my voice barely a hiss. "She's got some kind of master key nonsense." Marcus stood, his badge still clipped to his belt from earlier. "Let's see how this plays out." The lock clicked, and the door creaked open. Karen stepped inside, her flashlight beam darting around like she was auditioning for a bad spy movie. She didn't see us at first, too busy scanning my living room for imaginary infractions. Her lips curled into that signature sneer, the one she wore when she caught you with an unapproved porch light. "Evening, ma'am," Marcus said, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. Karen yelped, dropping her flashlight. It clattered to the floor, the beam spinning wildly. Her eyes landed on Marcus, then his badge, and the color drained from her face faster than a busted pipe. "2M with the HOA," she stammered, clutching her clipboard like a shield. "This is a routine inspection." "Routine?" I snapped, stepping forward. "You're in my apartment at 8 p.m. with a key you shouldn't have. That's not an inspection. That's breaking and entering." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. "I have authority. The bylaws. Bylaws don't give you a free pass to pick locks." Marcus cut in, his tone colder now. He stepped closer, towering over her. Where'd you get that key? Karen's bravado crumbled. She fumbled in her pocket, pulling out a cheap, bent key that looked like it belonged in a junk drawer. It's a master key, she mumbled. For emergencies. Emergencies. I laughed. Bitter. What's the emergency? Karen. My couch, not regulation size. Marcus didn't smile. Hand it over. She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the key. For a second, I thought she'd bolt, but Marcus's stare pinned her in place. She dropped the key into his hand, her face a mix of defiance and dread. This key's not HOA issued, Marcus said, turning it over. It's a bump key. You know what that is. Karen's silence was louder than any excuse she could have made. Bump keys were locksmith tools or burglar toys, depending on who held them. Marcus pocketed it, his expression unreadable. You're going to explain this downtown. Downtown. Karen squeaked, her voice hitting a pitch I didn't know humans could reach. You can't arrest me. I'm HOA president. President of what? A crime ring. I shot back. You've been harassing this neighborhood for years. Karen. Finding people for breathing too loud. Snooping in their yards. And now this. You're done. Marcus pulled out his phone, dialing dispatch. Karen's eyes darted to the door, but the neighbors had gathered outside, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Lopez was there, her arms crossed. And Jake, the guy who'd gotten a $50 fine for a non-compliant trash can lid. They weren't here to help her. As Marcus spoke to dispatch, Karen's facade cracked completely. I was just protecting property values. She wailed. You people don't understand how hard it is to keep this place respectable. Respectable. Mrs. Lopez called from the doorway. You charged me $100 for a crack in my driveway you caused with your SUV. The crowd murmured, their grievances piling up like storm clouds. Karen's reign of terror had gone unchecked for too long, and now the dam was breaking. She'd find Jake for his kids' chalk drawings, threatened to tow Mrs. Lopez's car for suspicious parking, and even reported my dog for barking at her when she'd been the one banging on my fence. Marcus hung up, his face grim. Squad cars on the way. You're looking at attempted burglary. Maybe more once we dig into that key. Karen's knees buckled, and she sank onto my couch, her clipboard clattering to the floor. For the first time, she looked small not just physically, but like the weight of her own arrogance was crushing her. I didn't mean, I just wanted control. She whispered, more to herself than us. Control. I said, my voice softer now, but not gentle. You don't control people by scaring them. Karen. You earn respect, not demand it. The squad car pulled up outside, lights flashing through my curtains. The neighbors parted as two officers stepped in, their faces all business. Karen didn't resist as they cuffed her, but her eyes burned with a mix of shame and defiance. As they let her out, she shot me a look that could have curdled milk. This isn't over, she muttered. Oh, it's over, Marcus said, his voice final. You're not the queen of this cul-de-sac anymore. The neighbors clapped as the car pulled away. A small, cathartic cheer. Karen's reign was done. Her master key, nothing but a cheap trick that unlocked her downfall. I looked at Marcus, who was already back on my couch, scrolling through his phone like nothing had happened. Thanks, I said, handing him another beer. He shrugged. Just another day? but you owe me a new lock. The next morning, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Karen was stripped of her title, her fines voided, and her inspections banned. The neighborhood felt lighter, like we'd all been holding our breath for years. Mrs. Lopez planted a new rose bush, bright red and defiant. Jake's kid drew a rainbow on the sidewalk, and nobody said a word. Karen's house went up for sale a month later. Rumor had it she'd moved to a condo downtown, where the HOA had stricter rules and no patience for her nonsense. Sometimes, I'd catch myself checking my lock, half expecting her to show up with another key. But she never did. Karma doesn't always come fast, but when it does, it hits like a police chief answering the door. The end.